Shazad, you might be talking on mute.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah. Okay, so the first I answered the question to the Linux. I mean, we are having a Linux class, not a Terraform class. We'll have a Terraform next week. And yeah, and then what we have seen so far is the basics of navigation. And today we'll see more of the navigation and working with the different files. So in the navigation, the first important command is ls. ls is the command that will let you know what are the contents you have within your directory. So I mean, now there are a couple of ways. If you remember the if you remember the file system that we have, that is starting with the the root. Root is the parent of all the file system that we have. It's the father of all the structure of the directories we have on the Linux. And within that, then we're gonna have we have more directories, right? And after this, everything that you see, the /, that / is nothing but a separator. This one has a significant, as in is the directory and the root directory. And from after the first one that you see, those are just a separator, right? And any directory that starts with the /, then your path is the absolute path. And using absolute path is the best practice. That will never error out if you are doing anything. And especially if you are doing automation and you are writing a script, it is highly recommended that you always use absolute path, not the relative path. And simply put, what is the absolute path? Any path that is beginning with the root. I mean, any path that starts with the /, that's your absolute path. Anything that is not starting with the relative path, that is that is not an absolute path, and it becomes the relative path, right? So also, and it is considered to be the best practice. If you have the habit of using this while you're navigating or working, then it's good enough. Otherwise, you can get away from while working on the shell, interacting directly. But in the automation, in automation also you can get away, but you have very high chances of making mistakes based on where the script is being running from. If you do that, so we'll see that as well. And this is where the ls comes in first. So you can peek in, like you can sit on one location and then you can look at the other location. For example, this is the root directory that I have, and I'm gonna have a home directory where all the users will be present, and root is the special user which will have its own directory called root. So the home directory for the root is always going to be /root, right? So this is the home directory for the user that we have, root. Any other non-root user or non-root user, they will be present here in the home directory. And then we have etc or etc or etc directory, where we have the configuration, the var directory, usr directory, there are device and proc and so many other directories that are there. etc is very significant because you have to often deal with this one, because most of the time on the Linux, all the configurations are going to be present here. You can keep configuration anywhere else. It really doesn't matter for the Linux, as long as you wire them up properly, your application, it will work. But this is considered to be the best practice, as in if somebody who just know Linux and you bring that person, okay, we are having an issue with this certain application, please go ahead and check. That person, first thing he will say, okay, so this application is not working, let me go and see the configuration. The first inclination for that person is to go and look that file in the etc directory. So that's why if you are bringing up a customized application, which is like homegrown, most of the time in an organization, you would be responsible of managing that sort of application where you have the in-house developer that are building the application, which is just used in your organization, or your organization is responsible of maintaining or making that application. So in that case, you guys have to come up with your own installation methods, and you should keep everything in the etc, all the data in the data directory and all those. So it's become easy for person who knows that, right? And that's what we have to make. It's while working or while doing any sort of work, and especially while doing the automation, we want to make sure that whatever we are doing, it's being followed a best practice that would help next person who would come after you, or the next person who would probably take over after you. So he won't have to invest same amount of time that you have invested. So in IT, the another term is first time. If somebody is in first time, if somebody is trying to do something, then that is called time invested. If somebody does the second time, that is time wasted. So as a company, you don't want that. You want to have one person invest time, and then everyone should benefit from that, right? Do not reinvent the wheel. And how do we do that is by following the best practice and documenting all of this stuff, whatever is being done. So these are the best practice. These are the recommendation by the Linux. So they are already documented. You don't need to explicitly put them in anywhere, pin them down. So you should follow the best practice. In the home directory, based on whatever the name we have, so we will have the home directories, and within that we can have further directories if we have created, right? So when user logs in, he is actually you will be present here in your home directory, whatever the username would be. So there are methods by which we can connect. We'll talk about those methods in detail. Because the servers, if we have seen, the servers are sitting in the data centers, right? Whether you are working on the cloud or you're working on-prem, they're not. You're always connecting them remotely. So there are protocols, and there are securities are also, it's of utmost concern. So we'll talk about the different protocol that is used to connect to the servers, how securely we can connect them. Because that is very, very important for us as well. We should know the in and outs of that protocol. Is SSH is the protocol for the Linux, and RDP is the protocol for the Windows. While Windows protocol is not very complicated, because they simply support the username and password, but Linux has few things that we want to know about the SSH. So when you log in, when you do a remote login, anybody has question? Okay. If no question, then please mute. Let me mute you guys. All right. So if I'm sitting here and I want to see the directory or content that is present probably here in the temp directory, let's say. So there are a couple of ways for me to do that. Like I will be sitting here. So when I run the command called pwd, so if I do ls, all I can see whatever is present in my home directory, right? So let me go ahead and show you guys that. So right now I've logged in, and if I want to know which directory I am, last week I told you guys the tilde is the sign that can actually gonna tell you where you are. And most of the Linux system now, they are coming with that path. Otherwise, there are some scientific and some secure Linux where you don't see the path, because if somebody is standing behind you or he is able to see your screen, he wouldn't know where you are, right? So normally all the commands that are there, the first command is the pwd, which gonna tell you, it's going to print your working directory wherever you are present. And if you logged in like I did, you will always find yourself in a home directory. So if I were just run the ls, right? We have seen the ls, the man ls, and how you see whether you want to see the man page or help page is by simply listing the this command, and this will tell you whether it's a shell program or it's a shell built-in. So these are the shell programs, right? And the sequence is first, if you just run the ls, it will first try to run this program. So there are a couple of programs. One is coming with your OS, and another one is user specific as well. Both programs probably gonna do the same, but these are the sequence. If something else were to execute, we'll see about the sequencing and when we discuss about the path. the environment path, sorry. So this will be executed first. So these are all the programs, whether this one is executed or this one. So what you want to go for? It's a man ls, right? If it was a shell built-in, then it would have been help ls. So that is also a thing when when to use what. So these are the synopsis. How do you want to read it? How you should read it is by square. The square square bracket thing is optional, and this is optional, and these are the ellipses. You want to remember or memorize that, because everywhere you'll see that, and this is a very common way to represent or present your synopsis. Is the usage. How do you use that? And if you know what they mean, you should be able to work out with any usage. So you don't need to go anywhere at all. You have everything at your disposal. You can use the shell way, or you can simply do the man ls on the Google as well, and that will also take you to the man pages. If you are finding it difficult to read or navigate here on the page on the pager. So here right now is the pager. So it's coming as a page for me. I can do scroll up and scroll down, and I can also do a search. So if you are not comfortable at the beginning, you can do something like that, and this will also bring you to the Linux man page maintained by the man.org. So it's the same thing we have, and by default, if we don't, ls doesn't take any anything as an argument, right? The option is also optional because it's wrapped with a square bracket, and the file is also optional because this is also wrapped with a square bracket. So what does that mean? If I were to run the ls command here, all I could see whatever present here. If I want to see something here, then I have a couple of ways. First, I can just change my PWD, the print working directory, to the temp. So that's normally the newbies does, and if you are also comfortable doing that, you could do that. But this is the part where you want to get comfortable. You should be able to know where you are in the system and where do you want to look at the peek in. So while doing running this way, like you can do cd, and then the way to do that is one more thing that we didn't talk about that day is there's a special directories we have here. Okay, let me get rid of this. Yeah. So if I do ls, I see all the directories that were created, right? So backup 01, Linux, nodes, and this file was already there. We use mkdir command to create these, and same thing with this one. Now, if I do -a, which if you have seen in the man page, a is gonna list. Do not ignore entries with the starting with the dot. So any file that is starting with the dot, which means that is the hidden file. Right? So in Linux, any file starts with dot, that file is the hidden file. Let me put this here. So when you do normal ls, you will not see that, and when we run with the -a, we can see all the hidden files. So there is a dot and dot bash logout, dot config, all the dots. There are so many things. Previously, we just had like 5 or 6 files, which was presented to us. Now you could see there are so many files that are available. Right? I can also do -L8 combination of these two. It will do the long listing for me, and I can see more information. So all the files that I'm looking at, those are here. So dot here, just single dot, so this is also a dot, right? And one more thing, if you look at here, right, I told you how to recognize whether this is a file or this is a directory. So this dot, if you look at this side, it's a D, which means this dot is actually a directory. And the next one is also a directory, right, double dot. And then the dot backup is also directory, the backup is also directory, the backup 01 is also directory. So you have D everywhere. And when you don't have the D, which means these are the files. So this dot bash history is not a directory, rather it's a file. So this dot, it means your single dot means your current directory. Again, single dot is equivalent to the PWD. Whatever you have in the PWD, that's actually being represented by the single dot. and double dot means your parent directory. So if you look at the file system right now, which I have drawn here, if this is my current directory, right? If this is my single dot, then who's my parent? Home. Home is my parent directory. So when I do pwd or when I do ls-l command run here, I see everything here, and I see dot, which is this directory, and double dot, which is this directory, right? So if I were to do ls dot dot, I mean, if I can do cd, I mean, that's the way, like, I want to see what else, who else is present here, like what other users are here. So I can simply do cd dot dot. If I do cd dot dot, I will, from here, I will come back. I'll find myself, I'm sitting here then, right? And if I run ls, then I will be able to see who all are present here. One user that is gonna be for sure, that's me, because if I go here and do the ls, that from here everything will be listed for me. And one user is definitely going to be me, and the other users, if there are any, right? So let's go and see that in action. So I can do cd dot dot, and if you look at this one, it has changed. Previously it was tilde, and tilde or tilde, it means that's your home directory. So /home / whatever the name of the user, that you're logged in with, right? So now I'm here. If I do ls, so you can see there are more than one user that I have, right? So basically now you are able to see that there are users here. So I'm one of the user, and there is another user called this thing. And we have another user called local admin. So I'm sitting here and I'm able to see, this. If I do this, I mean, does the home has a parent, right? Yes, home also. So the parent of the home is this / guy, right? And if I were to do that thing again, long listing with all the hidden files, I can see there is a dot and then there is a double dot, right? So this home directory also have a parent directory, and that parent, if you visualize here, that is this guy. So I can also do double dot again, and now I will find myself that I'm present here, right? So from here, I'm here now, and what I'm doing is cd dot dot. And that's what I did here as well. So I'm here. So while doing this, I mean, this is the relative path, by the way, because I did cd, I used change directory command, and I have not supplied a absolute path, which is my path is not beginning with the / root path. So this is, because this is not beginning with the /, which is the root, which means this is not absolute. And then if this is not absolute, then you only have the one remaining, that is the relative path, right? So that's the way, so this is a relative path. Now I can do ls here as well, and I can see what things are present. So right now I'm running ls here, right? So I'm able to see everything, the home, root, etc, temp. So let's take a look while we are here. Let's take a look what directories we have. So we have quite a few. A bin directory is where all the commands are present, and if you look at the bin, and one more interesting thing that we talked about last time, if you look, this is not dash or not d, right? So far we have seen a lot of dash and d's, right? Dash means the file, d means the directory. Now look at what we have. This is a link. Link means it's a shortcut to something that we have created. So there are a few types of link. We'll see about the links in details. But if you have any familiarity with the Windows, and if you want to understand what are the links, in Windows we have something called shortcut. Is on your desktop, you have all the shortcut of the application. Whether you have a game, whether you have some application, there is always a shortcut present on the desktop, which you can double click and it will open up the application. So that application is not present on the Windows. Rather, there is a shortcut, and when you click on that, it will take you to the place wherever the application is installed. And in Windows, it's always C program files, and from there, that particular executable will be executed. Right, the exe file will run, and then you'll have yourself your application. So it is the same thing here as well. And then there are a couple of links, types of links we have. We'll talk about those. So L stands for links, and whether you see what the content of this file or this file, they are going to be the same, because they are the same file, because this bin is actually pointing to this one. So this is the shortcut which always gonna take you here, right? So bin is the shortcut for the user bin, and you have all your commands. So the ls command that we are using, the pwd command that we are using, the cd command that we are using, they are all present here. So there are few locations where they will be present, and especially they're going to be in the binary. So you have bin stands for binary, so you have all your binary. These are the commands, and they will be present here, or user binary or local binaries. So there are few locations where a system level binaries will be present, and the user specific binaries will also be present. Then we have boot, where all the boot level information. Device is the external ones. etc is something it's important for us. Like I said, all the configurations files gonna be. Home directory is all your home users are present, and these are again the they are the symbols. Again, they are pointing to the USR. USR stands for universal system resources of the. I mean, there are few definitions or few full form for that, but this is actually originated. It was intended for this. USR was user, but later they changed to home, and USR were given some definition. So different thought of people, or different distros or families of the Linux or Unix. I mean, from the Unix itself, we have BSD, we have Solar, other operating systems. So they have their own, full forms for that. So no need to get into those at this moment. I mean, which is the correct full form for this one. And the proc is also important, which we will see later, because all the process related stuffs are here. This guy is the root. So similar to how we have inside a normal user in the home directory, we have it here. I mean, these are just a file downloaded, so ignore them. I mean, you're not going to be finding it here. It can be completely removed. And if you look at the extension, it's .dev. And we did talk about the extensions .rpm, .dev, and .exe for the Windows-based files. And yeah, so that's what you have. And if I want to see the content of, let's say, a temp directory, right? Temp is the temporary directory that we have here. So I can do now ls and tmp. So I'm able to see this. So the way I'm actually seeing this, and I could have done a cd, how the new people does cd here, cd into temp, and then run ls command here by sitting in this directory. So that's the one way to do it. So let me actually do that. So, and we run ls. So we see all the files that are present, right? So I'm able to do it here. I had to navigate all the way back here. I could have combined everything, right? So cd ... and then separator / ... and then separator / that would have been the root, and then tmp. So I could have done all of this in a one command. I mean, I had to run how many 3 different commands, while I could have done, I had to run this command cd tmp here when I was sitting here, and then I run this. So I could have run cd ... tmp, like that, and I could have been I would have found myself back in the temp directory, and then simply run this ls. So this is the one way to do it, and the most people would find it rather easy to do this way, because this is it's not very complicated. I mean, the other is also not very complicated if you know this. Nothing is complicated if you can imagine this whole thing in your head. If you can visualize whatever you are doing on the terminal, and then okay, where you are, and you have to go there. So you could do this. It's become very, very easy, and so the whole point, whole idea here is to get very comfortable with the Linux navigation, and you take it. You work with seamlessly on this one. So we could have done this, and if I'm doing cd dot dot and / dot dot from here, it would have been this path is now relative path for me. Right? Because it doesn't start with the root, and that's the definition. Any path starts with the / that means that's absolute path. But this one is not starting with the root, right? Here in this, at least in this scenario, if I'm sitting here in my home directory, and if I'm doing this cd dot dot / dot dot, the relative path is the idea behind the relative path is it's always going to be the easy, it won't be expensive. Right now, this is turning out to be an expensive path because I could have used a shortcut, not a shortcut, but I could have used the absolute path, which is not a shortcut actually. Normally, the relative path is the shortcut, and that's the reason why people use that. I could have used this command. Now you can tell me which has taken a less amount of keys, right? This would have been for the absolute path. Simply cd / temp. So this has less keystroke, right? I mean, I didn't have to type dot 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 / dot dot / basically 5 keystroke less while doing this. So here actually, because this would be cd / tmp. So from here I can actually run this one, and it would, because starting from the root, it knows where to go, so it will directly come here, and that way actually rather easy for me, because this one is turning out to be a less expensive command. I mean, in terms of the number of keystroke that we are punching in. So cd dot dot cd dot dot, this is relative path, but it's turning out to be the long, and this one is is rather short. So that's not going to be the most of the cases. You'll find, I mean, you'll have the relative path will be the shortcut, or it'll take the less amount of keystroke for you to be there. So you should be able to identify which one to use when, and if you want to stick to the this guy, that's always going to be better. Anytime, I mean, if you want to start with the / absolute path, that's always going to be the better, right? Anytime you want to come back to your home directory. So right now we are here in the temp directory, right? Now from here I want to come back to my home directory. I could do this all the way in the backward, right? And this time it will be, if I want to from temp to come back to here, then the command would be cd dot dot. So first time if I do dot dot, I'll find myself here on the root. Then I can do a separator. Then from here, I cannot use dot dot now. I'll have to use home, and then name of my user, right? Whatever the directory. So this is the way to do that. If I want to come back here from the temp directory, or I could simply run cd enter. Because when I do cd enter and I don't supply anything, it will actually bring me to my home directory. So first, see the synopsis for this one. So let's take a look at that. If cd is the program or is the shell built-in. So cd is the shell built-in. It's not a shell program. So we will find a help page hopefully. For some reason that is not working. I mean, even cd seems to have a man page now. No manual page. cd help. Message. Okay. So dash help seems to be working out. Otherwise, it would have been the help cd that also worked, but for some reason that's not working. So it's a shell built-in anyway, and for shell built-in, you don't have a man page, that's for sure. And there is a different variation. I think it's probably different older operating systems that are using, or maybe it's I don't know, it has to do something with this specific operating system. But anyway, that's the way to see the usage of the manual page to read and work with that, right? So we have quite a few options available for us, and here is the usage where we can simply supply whatever we want. And if you look at that, everything is wrapped with the square bracket. I mean, this thing is wrapped with the square bracket. So everything that is present here itself is optional. So we can supply -l, -b, -e, dash at sign and the directory in which we want to do the cd. And when we don't do this, when we don't do this cd, change the current directory dir, the default dir is the value of the home shell variable, right? So whatever the dir that we supply to cd command, it will be there. And if you don't, then the default is your home directory, right? So your home directory, it will be it will actually leave us to the home directory. So I can just do cd enter and I'm back in my home directory. I'll tell you one more shortcut. So you do the cd and you'll be back to your home directory, or you can cd into any other directory, right? If you know the path, like I'm gonna go somewhere inside the etc. I have an application called, let's say, Nginx application I have. So I'll have Nginx here, and within Nginx maybe I have a conf directory. And I can have few directories within Nginx. Let's say I have a one directory called const.d, and within the const.d directory, I want to come here, right? Because I have few files that maybe I want to do some editing here, right? I have a bunch of files here. Right? So I can, from here I can do /etc or dot and /etc nginx const.d. I couldn't do this. What if I want to go back to the temp directory again, or any directory again? So there is, if you want to go back from if you just do cd, you'll come here. But if you want to come here inside the country, then you're going to have to explicitly tell that path, right, that you want to come inside here. And that would be by either you do it with the absolute path, which would always start with the /. So you can do /etc nginx const.d and you'll find yourself here. But right now we don't have such directory. This is just hypothetical, because I can create and simulate this one, but the understanding is more important than actually doing executing it. So this is the way you could do that. And anytime you just hit cd without anything, so we've seen in the help page that by default it will take you to the home directory, like whatever your home directory is going to be. Now you want to go back, like accidentally, let's say you just enter cd and you want to go back to this path. And while this is while this path, so this was the previous command, right, which we had to execute. So if I run cd from here, I'll be I'll be thrown all the way to here. I'll find myself here. But what if I want to go back to here, or if I want to go back to some other place which was quite nested, right, which was very deep inside? So that would, that would be sometimes little time consuming to figure out again the path. We may not be able to figure out the path. The easiest way is to do is by just simply pressing cd dash. And what cd dash is going to do is just toggle between the last path, whatever you had. It won't go back all the way in history, like what was the last path before that. No, it won't do that way. If you do cd dash here, it will come here. What was the last cd you had? This was. So if you just play cd dash, you'll just find yourself toggle between these two paths. You'll come here, and from here, what was the last path? This. So if you do cd dash again, you'll come back here. If you do cd dash again, this was the last path. So you just find yourself toggling between the last two paths. Whichever the last two paths, you can toggle that between the cd dash. So you won't be able to, let's say, if you were before this path, you were here, like let's say, nginx const.d. So it won't go there. It will only deal with the last two cd commands, or the last two paths which you were present. So let me show you that as well. So I'm here. If I do cd dash again, I'm back to here. If I do cd dash again, I'll come back to here, right? So it's only going to toggle between the last two paths that I have, even though my path, in the path history at least, I was actually using dot everywhere, right? So here what I wanted to show you is few things, how to work with the cd command with few different ways. And then there is another command of combining these two. You can use cd, that's what the newbies do. That's what I've seen a lot of people find themselves comfortable doing that as well. So first what they do, they change their directory, they go inside that directory, and then they do the ls. So two commands they are using, which could have been done with the one command. It's like as if you are in a house and you have 4 houses, you have 1 hall, and probably you have 4 bedrooms. So I'm asking you, can you check, can you see what are the content we have in the hall? What things we have kept in the hall? So the way you are doing is you are actually walking in the hall and then you're seeing it. Where you have the CCTV cameras placed everywhere. So you can just look into the CCTV and tell me that, which is like sitting in your own directory, sitting in your own bedroom. You can tell me what is there in the other bedroom, what stuff we have, what are the content we have in the other, whether it's a hall or whether it's a different bedroom, right? Everywhere we have the CCTV camera. So you have two options: walk there and then tell me, or you can just look at the camera, so all the screens, and you can tell me that. Now, which would be so? Of course, just sitting in your home directory would be much better, right? Because you don't need to, you don't need to waste energy, or you don't need to put energy in order to do that. Same thing you can do here as well. Instead of doing cd dot 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 and then going inside that directory and then running the ls command, you could simply run this. And this is as good as the example that I've given, right? So you're just peeking in now. You're not inside the directory. You're looking in the directory from sitting here in this directory. So now from this directory, you are peeking, you are looking into this directory. So because this has the expensive command, it's turning out to be expensive command compared with this one. So I can do ls temp, that would be less keystroke. So this is the better command for me, right? So while you can do that if you are comfortable with this one, but you may want to switch to this one. And if you are not very good with that, and this will only happen with the practice, because the most important thing here is to imagine, not imagine, but picturize everything that is there on the terminal, because on terminal you don't see diagram like that. So you can always draw a diagram and try to find out, okay, where you are, and then work with that. So practice is the only key which will make you perfect, which will help you and help you to understand and navigate within the file system. And once you have the navigation in your head correctly recorded, then everything will become easy. You'll be able to deal with the other other commands that we have, and that we're going to start looking into as well. So in the beginning, you can do cd and look into that. The one common mistake that people use is, if I create something, what people will do over time, they'll just sit in their directory, and they can, from this directory, they'll be able to do everything, right? So in the last lecture, I showed you how to create a directory, how to create a file. Now sitting here, I can create a file here as well. So let me go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'll do touch, and I can use the expensive way of cd -- and tmp and then file name txt. Right. So this is created because I was in my home directory. I went back and back, and this guy was root at this moment here, and this is tmp, and this is the name of the file. Now I created this file here on this location, right? And that's what the people does, or at least the people who are new to Linux. They will create the file in the temp directory, and they'll do ls here, and they'll say, okay, I don't see my file here. So you created your file in the, you brought something, and that is present in your hall, and you are checking in your bedroom, right? Because this is your room or your bedroom. The thing that you have, it's probably in the different room. You've kept it in a different room, and you're searching in a different room, right? So you're never gonna find it. And I've seen a lot of people coming back to me with the question, I created this, but I don't see that when I run ls. So you need to know that you are present in this directory. You are looking into the wrong directory. So you need to look into the directory where you have created it, right? If you create something you have a bedroom, or you have a room in your house, which is called temporary storage or warehouse. So if you put something in the warehouse, you can't find that in your bedroom. You'll have to go and see in the in your warehouse. So the couple of method is you cd into this one, and then you do the ls, or you could simply do the ls from here. That's the peeking that I'm talking about. And over time you want to do that, because that's what gonna make it efficient for you. And if I do this way, now here is the file, right, which I created. So file name.txt along with the other files that are present here. Right. So this is very important. You want to know this. Where you are creating it, it's only going to present there, as long as you have taken the right path. Otherwise, this would have errored out if I were doing it somewhere else. Like if I don't do this, and if I run this, so it will simply say, okay, whatever you are doing, it doesn't exist. So what happening here is I did cd dot dot, now I'm here, and from here I do a separator, and then I'm looking into RT admin local admin. If I had given RT admin local admin, this would have been recognized, but there is no such thing here called TMP, and that's what the complaint was. So no such file or directory. If I give the name RT admin or local admin, because these are the home directories that I have present, it would have worked, but it would have actually given you a different error this time, a permission error, because you are the user, you don't have permission to look into this or go inside this user's home directory. Only a root user, which is that has access. I mean, root is the father of everyone, all the file system that we have. So he can actually look in any location, that's not a problem. So only root can do that, right? So these are the few important things while working with a navigation that you want to keep in your mind, and you should do practice on this one. Okay. So along with this, we have seen one more command called touch, and touch command is the command like similar to makedir command. Makedir is the command that can create the directory, and there is just only one command that's gonna create the directory for you. That is makedir command, right? And makedir command also, if you go and look at the makedir command, whether it's a shell built-in or it's a shell program, and this will be, so we can do type -a. Type itself is the command, right? Like we've seen. So it's a program, and if I want to see what is type, so we can do type -a type. And type is the shell built-in, so it's always going to be there on most of the Linux system, because it's coming as a built-in. It's not a user-created program. It's coming part of your kernel. So we have this makedir command. You can always do the man to see the options within the makedir. It's fairly small compared to the others. The manual pages that we have for the ls and a few other things that we are using here. So makedir is the only command that can create the directory. However, we have so many commands that can create the file. First command is the touch. So touch is the command which can help us create the files. So touch will create, there are two instances where you want to use the touch. Touch can create an empty file, and touch can update the timestamp of the file. So touch can create empty file, and touch can also update the timestamp. So with touch, you won't be able to modify the content of the file. You cannot modify the content of the file, right? So only touch can only do two things. It can either create an empty file which is of 0 bytes, and it can just simply update the timestamp of the file. So what I mean for that, let me create a directory called files. Let's cd into the directory called files. And here, if I want to go back to my home directory, I can simply use cd enter. That would be the way to do that. So that has the relative. I mean, I've used the relative path, or I'm actually not using relative path, because what it said, there is a variable. If we go back to cd command again, the cd -l, it says the default dir, the directory, right? This guy, the default dir is the value of the home shell variable. So this is the important saying, that it's a shell variable. We'll see about the shell variable, and we'll also see about the variables. So one thing, variable, if you want to see the variable, there is a command echo which can actually tell you what is the variable. And if I run that, so this is the absolute path, right? So when I just hit cd enter, basically I'm running this cd and whatever I have, because that's what it's doing, right? It's doing because that's the cd command is going to do. It will take this one. So when I don't provide anything, I'm actually giving a home directory. So a root from the root. So this is my absolute path. All I could have done, if I go back again, right, I can do cd ... and I'll come back here. Now here, if you compare this command with the cd ... command, you know that which one is more expensive right now. cd ... and cd, so we have absolute path and the relative path, and we know this time absolute path is more expensive because it requires you to put more keywords, while a relative path is is less expensive. So these are the instances where you want to know, these are the time where you should decide which one you want to use, whether you want to use the absolute path or the relative path, right? So relative path always best practice if you do that, but if you do relative path, it probably take a lot of time, and time taken in your automation is more, it's more worthy than making errors, right? Because if you do this cd dot dot and whatever you do in the relative path, that can go wrong based on which location the script is being running from. So let's say I'm sitting here, right? I'm inside the etc directory and I want to run that script from this directory. So cd dot dot from etc is going to be this, right? So it's always going to fail because I might be doing something after cd dot dot and maybe remove some file or create some file. I won't be able to create here because I don't have permission. So that script is likely to fail. If I do cd this way, like absolute path every time, then whether I'm sitting in the etc directory or I'm sitting in the nginx directory or temp directory, it will always go and create the file, or cd into that particular thing, and everything will be nice and clean for me. And there is a command, a career killer command, we have in the Linux, which is the rm command, and you never ever want to use that. I mean, we'll talk about that. I'll give you a few horror stories about the rm command. And actually that is on the Linux, because we on the terminal, you spend like couple of hours, and sometimes you might get carried away, or you lost the control yourself, and you might find you end up doing something that you didn't want to do. And in Linux, it's not at least like a Windows where you get a second chance, right? In Linux, if you do something, and especially if you are a root user, which is like the boss of boss, it's not going to ask, the system won't, system is scared to even ask to the boss whether you want to really do this. If you do something with the root, it's simply going to go ahead and do that for you. So there are commands that can end up your career, at least for whatever project or company that you are working on. So there have been cases. So I'll tell you again the few best practices how to avoid situations like that. And so always follow best practice. It is the hard way sometimes, but it is actually always going to be the safe way to go about doing stuff, right? So that's why it's called best practice. All the best practice actually gonna lead, the best practice will lead to less mistakes. That's that. So anything that doesn't lead to mistakes or leads to very less amount of mistakes, that's simply called the best practice, or is going to be efficient. So coming back to touch, so let me go back to this CD files here. So this was one of the example where we've seen relative path is actually handy way to do that. Like the previous example, the relative path turned out to be the expensive way to do it. Yes, Victor.
So did you say we cannot use the rm command to remove a directory? Is that what you said?
No, yeah, I mean, there are yes and no both, right? So there will be instances. I'll tell you, if you remove the directory and if you're not sure, what normally you should do is simply move that to the because you delete, and unless you have some kind of a backup, some third-party backup thing going on, there is no way to simply recover that. So once you delete, it's deleted. And accidentally, if you delete something else, your app, and as soon as you perform that action, whatever application is running off of that directory is going to crash straight away. And if that happens, you find yourself in the middle of nowhere that you cannot recover it back. I mean, organization do have the DR and BCP strategies in place that needs to get kicked off, but there will be a lot of escalation, a lot of tickets will be created, and you'll find yourself in the middle of a jury where you'll feel like you've killed someone. So the better way is always to move it in the temp directory if it's not a very big directory. So if somebody is asking you to go and probably just remove that file, simply move it to the TMP directory or temp directory. From there, it will be removed after 30 days. If that's not like in GBs, so always move it to the temp directory. And once you see, okay, 2-3 days have passed and nothing has gone wrong, you delete that. Otherwise, system is going to do the cleanup anyway. I mean, whatever the temp rotation is set, by default, it's set for the 30 days or system reboot. So anytime your system restarts, the temp will be cleaned up. or 30 days if you don't, something like that. Some organization even make it 7 days. So if you have that way, so if you have the space in the temp and you can afford to move it to the temp, then do that. If you cannot, and because it's a GB, it's a file in the GBs, and you are doing a space cleanup, then you just want to make sure, like, maybe look into that like 10 different times, because once you delete, it's gone. There's no way to recover. I mean, recovery is in itself is expensive, and almost 90% of the time you're not gonna have recovery like that. You have a snapshot and backup where you take the snapshot of the whole disk, and it's not very feasible. You cannot do without downtime. So you won't get approval to do that unless there is no way out for your organization, and that's a big impact because your application gonna crash and everything will go haywire. So so that's the reason why so that this is one of the I teach all of the freshers or the people who are newly getting started with that. Never ever use the rm command, because you can make mistakes if you're not very comfortable with the file system or navigation itself. Simply move it to the temp directory, and like I said, on the reboot, this temp directory will be cleaned up anyway, or they'll have some policy which will clean up this temp directory in every 7 days. By default, it's 30 days, but it can be customized, and organization do that as a part of the hardening. So there will be a hardening, which is nothing but following the best practices and restricting the unnecessary privileges as well. So that's what we should do. And along the way, I'll talk about few things where commonly people make mistakes. One is that. Another one is modifying. While modifying file as well, there are mistakes. So we'll talk about those as well. The best practice. So for the RM, the best practice is to move it to always temp directory. Okay, coming back to the files, the commands that can help us create the files and folders or files and directory in the Linux term. So makedir is the only command that can create the directories, no other commands. In the file creation, we have a lot of variations. So touch is the first command where we can create that. So I can show you that. Let me go back to screen files and clean the screen, Control L, maybe hit a couple of enters. So I get in the middle of the screen, is not on top or is not on the bottom. So one thing that you'll see a lot of Linux administration have a habit of doing is this. So they'll never come back in the bottom of the line unless you have something that you want to relate. Every time the 70 or 80% of the screen is filled, they'll always clean it up, and they'll put a few enters. So it's not on top of the screen as well. So that's the habit of the most Linux administrator you'll find doing that. So you don't want to come back and just work here on the bottom, just keep running the command and doing that. Every time you go, unless you have something that you want to do a comparison, like you always want to look whatever is up here, and then if you are doing that way, then it's fine. But if you can clean the screen, because you along the way, a lot of mess will be created, and you want to start fresh every time. Okay, you've understood, let's clean up and let's do that again, maybe create the file or run the command or run the application, whatever you're doing. So that's the practice you could also use, and it's you'll find very common in the Linux community. Okay, so let me come back here. I can do touch empty file. If I do lsl, so look at this, it's a 0 byte. Right? And the file size is of 0 byte, and this is the date, right, on which is created. If I run the date command again, so here is the new command for you. The date is the command which will present the date. Now you can look into the date as well, what type it is, whether it's a program or it's a shell builder. So this is a program as well. And if you want to know more about date, then you know what to do, right? So let's not go into that. So right now the time is 2:43, and this file was created at 2:42. So if I do ls-l again, it would be the same thing. So the first point that I made is of this, that touch is gonna create an empty file, right? So it did. Right? So I have the empty file which is of 0 bytes. It doesn't contain anything in here. Now the next thing I can show you is run the same command again, the touch, and this time it's simply gonna update the date. So look at the date now. It's 2:43. It was 2:42 previously. So whatever the current time, because probably it's 2:44. Because if I run the touch again, it will do that because that's the current time I have. It's 2:44 now. So touch is creating an empty file and it's actually updating the date. And it has a good significance as well. You might wonder, okay, there's what's the use of that? I mean, I'm just creating an empty file and updating the date. Sometimes you wanna, you wanna do some log, log rotation, or there are some programs that are that will just read the update at the time of the file, and it will based on if the file has the latest time stamp, then it will probably perform some action. If the file doesn't have the latest timestamp, it won't. Maybe you have a file here called some kind of a data, right? You have a file called data.csv maybe, and there is some external program that is writing a data into this file every day. So every day that external program writes the data into this one. This file, I mean, because it's modified, there will be always a latest date. Sometimes what can happen, and then you have another application that actually first it does, you have a program, first it will check if the file is the latest time, and if the file has the latest timestamp, then run the program, right? If file has latest timestamp, then execute whatever program we have, maybe whatever we want to do, right? Some kind of a ETL operation that you want to do, and mostly ETL operations are, I mean, you will have a condition like that. So in that case, whatever the program that is actually writing a data into this one, let's say there is no data, but you still want this program to be triggered. So all you can do is just update by using the touch command, which this file will do that. In some special cases where, for the data for the today is also, it's the same data what was tomorrow. So you want to probably just do the touch command against this data.csv, and it will update the timestamp of this one. And then this program, the condition will fulfill, and this program will get executed. So you'll find a lot of instances where touch is very useful to update the time. And sometimes you just want to create an empty file of some kind of a checkpoint or something. Like you run a program and you create a checkpoint file. And then when you do a second attempt, so first thing, how do you come to know that this, whatever the program that you're running is already being executed? So you can always look at the checkpoint, which would be, some kind of empty file. You can always do touch and name of the file. These are the few real time use cases that I'm talking about. But you can create an empty file and then you can edit this file as well. So we haven't talked about the file editor, which we will, but these are the two use cases. Now the other command which we can use is echo. We've already seen the echo command, right? I've showed you something with a variable. Now echo command is a print command which you have used in any other programming language, programming application or programming language, where we simply print the statement. So while echo, I can print the content on the screen. So I can now my 80% screen is filled, and I'm changing the topic as well. So I don't need to just keep going here on the bottom. So I'll just simply clean the screen, hit few enters. I've come in the, at least not in the middle, but at least in a decent screen level where everybody will be able to see it nice and clean. So I can do echo, and this is line. And if I hit enter, that thing is actually printed here, right? So if I, so echo is going to print whatever we give, whether we give the variable or we give a simple line or whatever it could be, echo will try to print that as long as it's printable. So sometimes you can, echo cannot print the binary data here because shell will have to decrypt that. Like in encrypted stuff, also echo won't be able to print the content of that. You're going to have to decrypt it. So how do we create file? Because whenever I do similar to the touch, if I do the echo like I did with the touch command. So when I did touch and I pass the name called empty file, if I do echo and I say echo file.txt. So this is printed as a string to me. It didn't create a file, right? So echo is used to create a file with some content. So touch is to create empty file, echo will be used to create a file with some content. I mean, only one liner content. If you have more than one liner, then there are different ways to do it. So if you have if you want to write a one line into a file, then one line. You can do that way, or you can also create an empty file, but that empty file won't be of 0 bytes. That empty file is gonna have some, so we can't call it an empty file, right? Non-zero byte file can create. So okay, I say I wanted to put one line here, but it's online. Okay, anyway. So the way to do that, there is now I'm gonna have to introduce one more thing, which is a redirection, which we will talk about redirection later. But here, just want to know there are a couple of redirections that in order to work with the echo. The one is this, the greater than sign. This is the single redirection, and then there is a double greater than sign. So these are the two redirections we're gonna have to work with. And with that redirections, one more thing that we want to know is there are different types of file descriptors, which are nothing but standard input, standard out, and standard error. Standard input is everything that we are supplying with our keyboard or some kind of a devices. It's an input. Standard out, after running that command, whatever we get as an output, that is output. And standard error is the error. If there is no output, then there is going to be the error. So let me demonstrate you that. So I do ls. Now ls is coming from the standard input, right, from my keyboard. So this is the standard in. And if I hit enter, so whatever I see on my screen, this is standard out. Yeah, so I have only two. Once I supply standard in, there is just two possibility I have. It's either gonna be standard out or standard error. So because it was all nice, I mean, I actually executed the right command. So all I'm able to see here is the standard out. If I were to run some, if I supply some wrong standard input, which is lsss, and let me do t as well. So it's simply gonna say error. So this guy is the error, and this is called error. This is called output, right? And with the echo, I can actually, I don't need to worry about this right now. So this is represented with 0, 1, and 2. So if so these are the 1 and 2. That's the only thing you wanna you wanna remember, because 0 is the standard in anyway. So there's no, there's no way we can actually go and capture the standard in. We can, but that's a different thing. At least working with the echo. So whatever we print on the screen, if we want to put that in a file, then we can simply redirect that with a single greater than sign. So if I do echo and one line, and this time if I do echo file.txt, so here I was able to see that on the screen, but here it is not there. So if I do ls again, so there are two files I have. And if I do ls-l, so this file is empty, but this file has 8 bytes, and because this file contains this thing. Right? So I have around 7 line and 1 enter. If you if I do cat is to read the file. So there is an enter because there are 7 line and 1 enter. So there are, each alphabets have taken a 1 byte. So 7 letter has taken a 7 byte, and there is a 1 enter as well. Otherwise, it would have been it would have been here. I'll show you that as well. So this is the so when you run echo with just like this, it's always gonna put an enter at the end of it, and that's the case here, right? You might not see this. You're like, okay, this thing started. Whatever my shell prompt, this thing is called your prompt. It's a shell prompt. So this started right after this one. Because there was an enter, that's why it's in the new line. Otherwise, it would have started from here only if there was no enter. And when that's the case, then the file size will it's not, it would have been 7 because we just have the 7 characters here. The 8th character is the enter, which we don't see that. And same thing we can demonstrate by creating a non-zero byte file. And if I want to create a file which is empty, just like the touch, I can do that as well. But there will be a catch here. So let me show you that. Clean the screen. And we'll do echo. And we'll just do this. Empty echo file. And if I do ls-l, you see there is a 1 byte here in my empty echo file compared to my empty file. So if I do empty and file, and then if I do cat empty underscore file, so see the difference, right? When I did this, nothing happened. I didn't have any white space or extra enter or extra line. Here I do have the extra line, right? So the echo by default have inserted the enter. When I didn't give any content, what I got is the extra enter, right? So that's what I have in the echo command, right? So echo is always gonna have that that one empty one line. So that's the way to do that. Now, so this is right now, if you have seen, or if you don't see, what I'm redirecting here is the 1, right? Because what I said, if I go back to the statement of this, so when I run this, so when is the when the output is there of the command, basically this is standard out, right? Which is represented by file descriptor 1, right? Standard in was this, the whole thing that I've given with the keyboard, and this is what I got. Same example, if I bring back of this home, which is the variable right now. Don't worry about the variable. We'll talk about the variable in detail later. Okay, because the command was wrong. So what I got here is the error. So this thing is the error, while this thing is the output. So this is 1 and this is 2. And when I'm doing a redirections, and this thing called redirection, right? So this, whatever I have, so let's go back to this command and redirect it to empty file. Echo file. So if I do a redirection to this one, it is there, inside this one. And if I do the redirection to the wrong command, that doesn't happen, right? Because I need to now specify. When I don't specify the file descriptor, which is one between 1 and 2, we can create a custom file descriptor as well. We'll talk about that as well later. Right now, just away. So by default, one thing we know that every time, whether it's a echo or whether it's going to be something else, right now we are only dealing with the echo. So let's just focus on the echo. So when I do the redirection of greater than sign, the default redirection is 1, because whenever there is an output, some legitimate output is actually being redirected in the file. But when there is no legitimate output here, let's say it's the wrong thing, it actually doesn't go inside the file, it's coming here. So actually this is the, so if I put 2 and then if I redirect, right? So what I have redirected now, whatever it was there on my screen, this thing is redirected here. Let's do the cat and see that. So see, whatever was present here. Now, if I do this again for the correct command, which is this one, right? And if I put 2, let's see what happens. It doesn't go inside the file. It's actually printed out here. Because I'm explicitly saying this guy, okay, only redirect 2, which is the error. If this command errors out, that error message or content of the error needs to come inside this file. And right now, this didn't error out. It says, okay, you said you asked me to put an error inside this file, but it's not a standard in. It's not a standard error. It's rather standard out. So I'm gonna just print that on the screen because that's what I don't see any instruction around here. What to do that? So only 2. Put it in the file. 1, I have not given any instruction, so it's gonna come straight onto your screen, and that's what happened here, right? So if I go and change that to 1 this time, or if I don't change that to anything, because by default it's going to be the 1, so I don't see the output on my screen, right? And that's how this works. So that's about the 2-in-1s. We'll talk about more. We'll do more 2-in-1s later. The redirections and how to manipulate them. Right now with the echo, the only thing that you wanted to know is that I have a habit of actually introducing few things which we which we deep dive later. So you have things register in your head as well, and you can expect what's coming next as well. Okay, so that was about the one redirection. What about the two greater than sign? What this gonna do? So this one is to replace, and this one is to append the double one. So if you notice, I've actually added so many things. I've added error, I've added this, but everything have replaced one another, right? So let's do this. Yeah. Okay, that didn't happen because I didn't give 2. So if I do 2 and if I do echo file, it is replaced with I had one line. So if I go back and if I run that again and do cat echo file, so they are actually replacing each other. What if I wanted to keep both everything that I'm doing, right? I simply do this for the first time, and next time when it comes back again, I can simply do append, and if I do cat, so it's actually appending it now. So double equals double greater than sign is going to append. It won't replace whatever content you have. So if you had like so many content here, and if you just put us, so this is another common mistake that people will do. So let's say we're talking about this configuration file, because everything that is present in the etc is very critical, because they are the responsible files to run our applications. And whenever you come here in the etc directory and you do any changes, you want to be very careful and vigilant, right? Because you don't want to do any mistake, any comma, any comment, any special character on a wrong place gonna crash your application. So you want to be absolutely sure. And in the etc directory, there are system level files as well. And guess what happens if you do any mistake to the system level files? You're gonna lock out the system. It won't be accessible by anyone. It has to go through a special method of putting into a safe mode and then recovering it back. So there is sometimes you'll have to create a rescue VM to do that as well, right? Where you create a VM and then we'll do one lab to do that, a troubleshooting lab when we do that. So you have scenarios like that. And so in the etc directory, you don't want to do something that is you're not sure. I've seen people doing this. In the etc directory, they wanted to add a configuration at the end of the file, which is by double redirectors. Right? So if you want to append something to the file, so there is a config file and they wanted to add a config. So they said like this, okay, like password auth, yes, and they wanted to, and accidentally they did this. If I do that, what will happen? This password auth yes will be appended. I mean, I want to append because this file is very critical. This file is responsible for me to connect here. SSH is the file that is actually, so I've commented this out. So this command never worked, right? It's just for the example. Because if I do that, and the good thing here is, if I were to do that, Google is going to recover it for me. So even if I mess up everything here, not an issue. And that's the reason why I'm doing purposely this. So you guys also come here and do whatever you want to do. It's a playground, and don't worry about anything. If you make a mistake, simply close it, run it again. Google's going to recover everything back to the normal. So you have your playground where you can afford to do any kind of mistakes, right? But when you go back to do that on your production systems or your organization system or even your own system, you don't want to make mistakes because you're probably going to crash the whole damn thing. So, be very aware of that. So if I doing this, I mean, this file has a lot of critical configurations already. And if I do this thing, what will happen? Everything will be erased and I'll end up with just one single line of this thing. So let me demonstrate that by copying this to, so I'm going to use cp, another command which I wanted to introduce, and I'll put this into the temp directory. So cp is the command which will take a source and target. We'll talk about that as well. cp, mb, and a few other things to do with that we work with that itself. So I'll simply copy this SSHD config into the temp directory. I'll hit enter. And now this is present here. Since I've copied it here, I can't do ls and see, okay, I don't see the SSD config because I did not copy it in my current directory. I've copied here, right? So that file is going to be present in the temp directory. So if I want to see, I'll have to do this. And it will be somewhere here, right? And let me do and cat. So again, cat, if I do, I can't do SSHD config like that because this file is not present in my current directory. Cat will only do to the files which are present in my current directory. Anything that is not present in my current directory, I'm going to have to put the whole path there. So I'll do cat tmp SSHD config. So look at the amount of configurations that I have. So many configurations, right? I mean, these are comments, but these are actually the one is responsible for doing its thing. I mean, whatever I have. So if I go and run that command, which I was showing to you, it's commented here. And of course, I'm going to remove this. Right? And cat, everything's gone. And is there any way to recover that? No. I mean, can I do like undo? No, you can't. I mean, it's all gone, right? So there is no way to do that. So one best practice that you always want to follow is anytime you make changes to any file, you always do the CP. So like, let's say for this instance, I'm making changes to that one, that file. So in the same directory, you can always do CP etc etc directory sshd _conf, and then in the same directory you want to put a backup. And since you might make changes for more than once, you want to put a date. So whatever date for today is going to be 03/24 and 22. So you can put a date like that. If I do CP, it won't work because it will be permission denied for me. So I'm going to do sudo. We'll talk about what is sudo and how to work with that. So now I actually have two files. If I show you that. So I have this first, I mean, this is the file, the original, and this is the backup file. So you always want to do this anytime you make changes. So this is one. So if you make any mistake, you can always roll back. You can, or restore this file because this file was a working file before you actually messed up or you tried to make any changes. So you want to do this anytime you are changing to a critical file like this. Always put a timestamp. So this file is from yesterday. Even if like maybe in a day you are changing this file 4 times, which would be very weird. Why you want to do that? You can also put a minute and seconds as well if that's the case. And date command can help you. So I've showed you, a manual way I put it, but there's a date command that can actually help you get the current date, current timestamp to that. And I'll show you that manipulation later with a click, not now. So you do this way, and any mistake you make to this one, you can always roll back from this copy of you have. So this is the one best practice, and there is another one which is to always, if you are overwriting any parameter, so always comment the existing parameter, do not delete it. So for instance, if I go inside this file in the backup, because that's, or let me copy this again. So I'll bring back CP command one more time. If I do inside this one. Now let's say I want to make some changes to probably this file. So I want to change TCP keep alive to no. So you don't want to do this way. You should do comment this one, right? And add whatever you want to add, again the same thing. Like that. So that way, so this is the second best practice while editing the file or editing the critical files or configuration file, you want to do that. So if you make mistake, I mean, this is pretty small, but let's say suddenly you realize, okay, oh my God, I can't do this here. So you can always comment this one and uncomment this one. That's how you restore the content of the file. And the previous instance where you copy the file, that's how you would restore the actual file, right? So these are the couple of best practice. And with the RM, you want to move to MV. While changing the file, you always make that. Freshers go and directly, the people who are working for the first time, they go straight away make the changes because they don't realize we might have to change because that might not perform sometimes a lot of things happen on the assumptions and theory, that you have a theory, okay, if I do this, probably that's going to work. And when you do that, it doesn't work. So how do you roll back? By having these means. You want to keep the file or take a backup of the whole file. If you're changing a configuration, then change the, if you are just overwriting something or some parameters, then comment the existing one and then add the new ones that you want to add there, right? That's because that makes it easy for you to roll back in the event if you want to quickly restore back to whatever it was there, right? So you do that. And to avoid all of these kind of mistakes, right, what we have today, from other than DevOps, is the GitOps. In the GitOps, everything that we see is version control. If this was version control, then there was no worry. You don't have to create versions. What we literally did, we created a version here by this name, right? So we are making sure that if you make any mistakes, we can always go back. GitOps is exactly doing the same thing to you. And Git traditionally is used for codes, but now Git is also used for configurations, right? All these kind of a configuration where admins or developers or any user make mistakes, you can always go back to that previous state, right? By simply rolling back. So that's the that's the one use case that you might now able to relate with the GitOps. Okay. So coming back to this, now working with the Echo, it can create it can create a multi-line files as well, but don't want to do that because there are different methods to work with the multi-line. So with the Echo, you can do replace, or you can append, and you can create a non-zero, non-empty file, or you can just create a file with some content in it, right? So you can also work with the cat, but I prefer not to. I mean, as long as you have a use case like this one, it's okay. And the next, if you want to write a multi-line file, why to mess here and there? Simply use the file editor. Like we have Notepad, and I don't know in Mac what kind of a file editor you have, but those are the file editor which you can use to edit the files, right? In Linux also there are few commands we have. So we have commands like nano, which people gonna teach you that, emac, vi or vim, and there are a few others as well. But these are the few famous ones, famous file editors we have. Nano is quite easy to work with, and the problem what happens, Nano is not available on all the system. Vi is available on all the distributions. Vi is what you want to use because Vi is very powerful. It is not as easy as Nano, because Nano is not easy as well, if you ask me, because if you develop a habit of working with the Vi or Vim, Nano is not easy. I mean, Nano is just relatable with whatever you have. So how we open a file, we write a file, then we save the file with the Control S, and then we close the file, right? Nano works in a similar way, while Vi also works in a similar way, but there are different ways to actually do that. You can't press a Command S or Control S to save the file. That's something you can do in the Nano. But working with the Vi also is straightforward if you know how to work with that. And instead of first learning the Nano and then getting started with that and then working with the Vi or Vim, I prefer always directly start with that. And I'm going to break it down for you like I always do. So it's easy for you to understand and easy for you to work as well. And it's only the practice that will make you better. So why do practice with the Nano, which probably not going to you probably not going to use that, because on the Red Hat based operating system, Nano is not there by default. And like I said, almost 90% of the corporations or 80% of the corporations, the enterprise application, they use Red Hat, no other operating system, because Red Hat was the one originally coming up with the support and enterprise version. Now you have OpenSUSE and Canonical is doing the Debian and other, but still Red Hat has a lot of very good market share, and most of the companies organization uses Red Hat as the operating system, and you'll not find Nano there because Nano is only available on the Debian and Ubuntu systems. So while I'm right now, the Cloud Shell is based on Debian, like we've seen. So we have Nano, but Vim is what we want to learn, and Vim is what we want to use. So to work with the Vim, there are two modes that we need to be aware of. So first mode of this is the escape mode, and second is the editor mode. So when you open a file, so simply just the way you create a VI or Vim, what you will see now, whether you type vi or vim, it's the same thing. Previously the command was vi, and now the new version of the command is vim, which is vi improved, and they are alias of each other. I mean, vi is the alias for the vim. So if I run vi or if I run vim, basically it's the same thing that I'm running. So let me show you that. I hope I have it here. So if I do alias vi, aliases. Okay, looks like I don't have that situation here. I do have a command. Do I have the vim as well? I think I should. So this is completely customized by Google, so they happen to put both of the versions, but most of the time it's going to be the vim, because that's what you'll find on the newer systems, or at least on the Red Hat based systems, and they're probably gonna alias vi to the vim, because two things here. Because people have an old habit. So all the people who are working previously with the VI, they have, in the muscle memories is still there. So when they type this, type VI, they don't type vim. So one thing that's going to actually show you between the people who are new to the industry and people who are been there, the old people will always use VI and new people will use vim because they have learned vim. And why I also used to use vim, VI, and I still use VI because of the different reason. Because it's a one less word that I have to type. I don't need to type 3 letters here. So I always look into the efficiency, or what can make work a lot easier for me. So it's always better to type VI. Plus, when some other person sees, he probably think, okay, this guy is coming from the old school. I mean, he's been there in probably a good time, and you can create that kind of impression as well. So why not do that? I mean, because this is what the people, the old habits, and you can also do that. I mean, present yourself as if you've been here for quite some time. So it's efficient because you have to type one less, and it can create a good impact on your behalf. So why not do that? So I use VI, and you guys can also use VI. And if you are also using Vim, it's the same thing, right? They are the same. So there are 2 modes. One is the escape mode, and one is the editor mode. In order to, so when you open a file with the VI, so all you have to do is just type VI sometimes, and you can write the file. But don't do this well. Just type VI and hit enter. If I do that, it will create a file. It won't create a file, but it will ask me to do that. And here are all the help commands that I have, like VI improve. I mean, it is a VI improve command. So it is a Vim. So Google has probably created a link. So if I do a little more digging, I'll find out that this is Vim only. So it's not created an alias, rather it has created a link, which is the same thing, just a different method to achieve it. We'll see those as well later. Okay, so if you just type VI and write, you will start writing it, and then after once you are done, it will present you with the it will present you with the message that, okay, please save your file somewhere, save your work somewhere. So I don't prefer doing this way because there you have to you're gonna have to be very good with again the file system. The better way is to simply write the name of the file, and then get inside that way, like type VI and whatever the name of the file that you want to save. So it won't present you with that screen. Okay, do you want to save the file with this name or that name? It won't ask you that way. So I'm inside in the VI right now, and one thing that you want to pay attention is the bottom line of your screens, here and here. Because right now here is the rows and columns and the characters what I have, and this is going to tell you whether I'm inside the insert mode or the escape mode. Insert mode is simply going to say insert here. So since it doesn't say insert right now, I'm in the escape mode. So when you create a new file, by default you are in the escape mode. And when you want to write something, whenever you want to write something within this one, there is so VI has the command as well. Similar to how shell has the command, VI also have the command. So that command you can only run in the escape mode, and those commands are key combination, and then there are some command with the colons. So within that we have 2 ways. And then we have something called colon. We have a lot of command that starts with the colon. And actually the colon itself is the key combination. So how do you get a colon, right? It's by pressing shift and then the semicolon sign, right? Shift plus this sign. If you press this, you get colon. So basically what did you do? This is the combination. These are the two key, right? So it's a key combination. So you press key combination again to come back to this one. And from here, you have very handful of commands that you want to at least get started with. And then you can improve that, or you can increase the number of commands that you want to write. So you have W. So you can write W for write to save the file. Then Q to quit, to exit a file. And then we have WQ is to save and quit. And there is another thing with the force. Sometimes you don't. So this is this will only allow you to quit if you have saved your changes. Sometimes you don't want to save your changes. You want to exit out without saving the changes. At that time, you're gonna have to force yourself. So quit force, which exit without saving changes. And you can sometimes save into a non-editable file by this. So you can save and quit, save and quit force. So edit non-editable file. So edit read-only file. So if some file is read-only, that won't allow you to save that, and at that time you can do that way. Right. So that's the way. These are the very few command that you wanna be, or that you wanna know at the beginning. That's it. And if you know all of this, then you can work with the VIs. It's not very difficult. All you have to know this, and there will be one situation where you're gonna run into the error, and I'll talk about that as well. But when things are going your way, you just have to work with these commands. When things can go haywire, and a lot of students have come to me saying, I'm not able to exit out of the VI editor. I'm stuck. I don't know what to do, because if I do whatever it is, it doesn't happen. I'll tell you why that happens. But before that, we come into, okay, so far all the command, we're talking about saving the file and exit the file, but what about writing into the file? So in the escape mode, you cannot write anything. In the escape mode, anything that you press, that will be your command. And there are some commands. One of the commands you have, so you have a key combination command. One of the command we have that, you can work off here itself is the I. So we can press I, and that I will bring us to the editor mode. And if I come back here, right now I'm inside the file. This is escape mode. I'm pressing I. See, it says insert. So I'm inside the insert mode. Now, if I type any key combination, like I told you one key combination, right, which is shift and colon. So let's see what happens. If I do that, it will be treated as a letter or as a character. So anything that I do, if I type shift A, this is I'm expecting this to be a key combination, but I'm inside the editor mode. So anything that I type now will be typed. Right, it will be it will become a character, and that will become a letter inside my file if I'm trying to write that. If I want to get out of this, so all I have to press is escape. That's the first letter on your keyboard from the left side. I come back to escape mode. So the way things happens, press I, write everything that you want to write, then press escape, come back here. The key combination that you want to use is this. Once you have this one, then you save and put the file. So let me write my first line with it's pretty slow. So I've pressed escape now. If you see, the insert sign has gone. If I do I again, I'm inside the insert, so I can now again write or edit the file. And once I'm done writing the file, I can press escape. I'm pressing escape now. This insert will be gone. So I'm back to escape mode, right? I've done my editing. Now I'm back to the escape mode. From the escape mode now, I want to save it. So I can do shift colon or shift semicolon is the is that. So shift and colon. As soon as I press that shift semicolon or colon, see what happens. My PC is slow right now, but you see there is, I'm back here. My cursor is not here anymore. My cursor is here. I didn't do anything. I mean, from the mouse, I have not clicked here. I'm just showing you. All I did, I just pressed colon, right? Shift and the colon. So I'm here. I can press W to save. I can hit enter now. File is saved. It says 30 bytes written. Right, I'm in the first line, and there are 29 characters right now. So in this one, right, that's what it says, 1 and 29. Here 30 bytes is written to the file, and if I want to quit now, I can press shift colon again and then Q to quit, which is to exit. Now I have the content saved inside the file. I can do the cat to read it. It's a small file. I can do that one. If I want to do some editing again, press that, and then I, to get into insert mode, I'll come into the writing random typo stuff in the second line, because I made some typo. Now I'm done writing. I can press escape and W, and this time I'm going to press both of those because I'm done writing and saving. I'm done here. I want to save and quit. So instead of running this twice, I can actually pass this combination WQ and enter. Okay, so WQ, it works. So some people, this question I've been asked, can I use QW then? So you can give a try, and it won't work because this is the only way it will work. So accepted command is WQ with the shift colon, and there are so many getting into this mode as well, the colon mode. You can also supply so many things. Right now, I'm only giving you this. There are VI cheat sheet available on the internet, which you can always refer and try to get yourself better with the keys. There are so many commands, the key combination commands are available, but you cannot enter those while in the editor mode because there is a command called Shift A. What Shift A is going to do is I is just going to bring you inside the editor, inside the insert mode, right? And on the current line. So let me show you that. If I press I, I'm here, right? I have not gone anywhere else because I ended there. But let me come back here and save the file, come inside the file again. So I'm here now. I want to write after this line. So here is the problem with this one. I get into visual mode, but that's not what I wanted. This is only problem because I'm running this in the browser, and that's the reason why Google has actually done that. So normally you'll not find yourself, and later also we'll switch back to something else once we get a basic understanding. So I want to come at the end of the line here. I'll not click because if you do the click, you'll come back into some mode which is not very good. So let's so you are here and you want to come back here. So I can press Shift A. So now I've pressed Shift A. So that's another command to actually come inside the insert mode. So there is a shortcut, Shift plus A. This will bring you end of line. Insert mode. Like that. So it's going to make it easy for you. And if you press Shift I, it will put you in an insert mode and beginning of line. So I is not the only option that can actually get you to the editor mode. There are so many different combinations. So basically I is what is the key combination. It's a single key or it's just a command right now. Shift A is also a command, which is, it's a combination of two keys, right? So if you want to write, if you are in an insert mode and now if I try to press Shift I because I want to come in the beginning of the line, I won't come because I'm in the insert mode right now. If I want to do that, the only way is to do is escape and then press Shift I. Like now I'm in the beginning of the line. If I want to go at the end of the line, I cannot press that in being in the insert mode, right? So I don't want to do that. So so that's about, you know, the VI. And I mean, this is all you have to do. And to work with the more command, I mean, you either do with the shift A or shift I, you know, completely your choice at this moment. You want to stick to the basics, which is I, and write something, escape, and then come back here, shift colon, and then, you know, do the combination of any of these. So do start with this one, and then this is if you don't want to save any changes, right, to your file. Now the problem that people run into is the visual mode. When you go into the visual mode and nothing works, because you try to do visual mode is the completely different level of you know, it will require you a different level of understanding of the thing. So it's like a VI expert level understanding, or at least more than intermediate level of understanding. So if you are in a visual mode, which is luckily here, I'm coming by simply, okay, now it don't happen. Okay, it is happening. So this is the visual mode. So you can come in the visual mode. I can do some selection. I can do a lot of other stuff. When you do something like that, it's turning out, you know, the visual mode like that. Which normally what happens when you press Command V or Control V or Shift V or Shift or you know, Shift V in the Mac as well, I guess. You actually come into a visual mode. When you come into visual mode, you can't write, and you can't. So you are not able to write because it's not an insert mode. Visual mode is for the different purpose. So when you come into the visual mode, you're not able to write anything, and at the same time you're not able to you know, supply these key combination commands as well. So how do you get out of this? So people stuck in the visual mode and they try everything, they write WQ and whatnot, and nothing works. So when you are in the visual mode, all you have to do is press escape, maybe twice, thrice. So you press that and you are out, you are in the escape mode now, because nothing is written here. And then whatever mistakes you have done, press shift Q, I mean shift colon, and then Q and exclamation force, because I don't want to save any changes, and that's it. If even that doesn't happen, simply exit out this one. I mean, if you are not able to do that, because I've showed you, we've got into visual line. So this is a visual mode right now. And if I do any other combination, nothing works. Right? So if you have, maybe I did some error and I ended up cleaning up the whole file. So I can just simply press this. So I have my whole file back again. So visual mode is the only time that I've seen people are stuck. Right, and this visual mode normally is gonna you will end up having Control plus V or Command V on the Mac, I think, and Shift V. So Shift V, Control V will put you in the visual mode, and you are actually, because you are doing the key combination. And anytime you want to come back to escape mode by anything you are there, all you have to do is simply press escape. You want to come back here in the escape mode, press escape, and then you can do the other key combination, you know, again, maybe shift colon and then Q to get out of the file. So that's the way you work with the VI editor. It's not very difficult. And once you know, then because now like a lot of people find very easy to work with this, because it works traditionally, but it's still Nano is not easy. I mean, you have to, again, it's not like you just press Control S, it happens. You have to press Control W to write, Control O to I don't know, you know, there are different things that you have to do. Control X to exit, Control O to save, something like that. You have to do that. So instead of learning, you know, try to learn Nano, and Nano is also not very straightforward, like this the way you do your file. It's better that we directly start off with the Vim, because that's what you want to use and that's what every professional uses. So why not we start with that as well? And it's just a practice. You're away. I mean, just a little practice away you are to make it, you know, that you start using it for your day-to-day commands or your day-to-day the housekeeping stuff that you perform. Okay, so I hope you were able to make sense of whatever we've discussed today, and we wrap up the lecture here. And yeah, so tomorrow again, we'll not have tomorrow morning, rather we'll have this Saturday, sorry, not have the tomorrow evening, we'll have this class Saturday morning. This is just for this week. From next week onward, we'll stick to a normal schedule because I have again something tomorrow morning. I have some personal work, so that will be tomorrow evening for me, and it will be tomorrow morning for you guys. Tomorrow, as in Saturday morning for you guys. So this we'll have this on the Saturday morning, and then from next week onward, it will be Thursday evening and Friday evening, just the way we have planned it. Okay, so let's wrap this up for now. If you guys have any question, I mean, my meeting has started already, so I'm gonna have to rush. If you have any question, please ask me on the group. Post that on the group chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer you that. Or you can also bring that up in the next class, which we'll have on the Saturday morning, and we can discuss that as well. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you for joining. Have a great night. Take care. Bye.